Right, so if we're going to do expressions such as adding, multiplying, that kind of things with two different type of variables, right? For example, we're adding integer with a floating point. So obviously, in this case, this integer will be automatically converting to floating point before the addition. That's quite straightforward. Here, this character actually will be automatically converting to an integer. All right, so that's why in the previous version, it's actually easier to store that in an integer just to be for consistency. But here in this example, we want to convert a string out digit into its numerical equalities, right? So the number in the single quotation, that's called a character, right? And we want to convert it into the real integer instead. So in that case, we will do a conversion using this sign here. So I have the digits in the character version minus this number 0 character, right? In this expression, both of them will be converted into integer for comparison. Otherwise, it won't work, right? You cannot minus a character by a character, but both of them will be converted into integer based off the ASCII code, right? So there's become some number such as like 50 or something like that, 30 or 50, I forget which one that is. But that will help us to easily print a list of numbers, right? We're using a for loop or a list of letters using for loop as well. The same idea applied to the case conversion. We have seen this example before, so I'm just going to skip on it. But again, that's because those only the reason this works, this plus and minus operation works is because everything has been converted into integer. All right, so actually there are two types of integer. Okay, one is signed integer, the other is unsigned integer. So that means when we convert a character into integer, it might sometimes cause the negative integer, which is not supposed to be. So that is why, okay, while we're storing the character number, we always store them into integer directly, so just to avoid the difference between different machines, how they convert those characters into integers. All right. So there are more rules in terms of converting this type in an expression. One is, in addition to the character, will be converted into integer. The short is also will be converted into integer. Float will be converted to the double, but the basic idea is you always using more bits to represent a value when you compare it to the other one, right? So to be as accurate as possible, right? So if you have one side of operator using the double, you will always change the other precise number. And if you have one operator is long, the other is integer, you will convert to long. And the one is signed, the other unsigned, you will convert to unsigned. That's basically the idea. All right. So when we talk about assignment is x equal I, right? You assign the value of I into x. So if the x is defined as floating point and I is integer, when you do the assign, this integral will be automatically converted into float. That makes sense. But if you do the other way around, it will be converting to the integer because you are assigning a floating point into your integer. That means you will lose some information from this floating point, right? Yeah, it might cause some problem. Yeah, but also you could potentially use that for get rid of the decimal points as well. It depends on if you do that intentionally or not. All right, you could also specifically convert a type. All right, so in that case, you become very, very clear what exact type you want to do. For example, here we will have a square function. If your input is integer, you can actually convert it into a double. So that makes this, assuming the calculation inside is n times n, right? So you can make the result as a double as well by doing this. All right, so let's look at another exercise, which is to convert a string of hexadecimal digits into its decimal value equal integer value, right? So your input is actually string, right? A string means array of character, right? You want to convert it into an integer value. Basically, you're doing conversion and based off the letters. So first of all, your code will accept a string, right, as an array. Secondly, it will determine maybe if it's beginning with the 0x, it will ignore that part, right? Sometimes it will have it, sometimes it won't. So you should consider both scenarios. Then the function will process each character by converting them to numerical numbers, right? We have talked about how to do this conversion earlier. And you also want to convert both, because hexadecimal means you could have both digits and letters to represent values. So the number is made more straightforward, but the letters, you have to convert those A to F into 10 to 15, right? Those numbers. You have to handle both uppercase and lowercase, okay? And stop the process once the invalid character is encountered, stop it and print out whatever value you have got so far. All right. So that's the requirement. There are some constraints. Do not use some existing library. All right. Use a for loop. Make sure you can handle the case such as without or with the prefix or empty string, something like that. All right. So you will initialize some variables such as I for indexing the character in the string, result as n, and digit value, that's the value you will use for conversion. All right, so then use a for loop while you skip those optional prefix. Use a for loop to iterate through each of the character, check if they're actually between your range, right? Either between 1 to 0 or A to F. And then you convert them into a numerical value. All right, then this is important. Update your result n by multiplying the n by 16 plus this value, the numerical value you got before. So this is the formula you should use for the conversion. So you have n for the total result. The value is the convert from this ladder, either like 0 to 9, A to F to a number. That's the value. Then you use a function n equals n times 16 plus the value. Right? That's the function you should use to calculate this the end result. Your if statement should be something like this, right? You have a character, you compare it to a letter, and if it's in between, you will calculate value accordingly, right? All right, so here are some examples, solutions. First of all, you will check if the first letter or number is 0, right? If that's a 0, and then the next one could be either small or uppercase X, you basically just skip all those two characters by adding your number, index number by 2, right? So you just jump to the next following character. Then in the loop, you don't have to initialize I anymore because I has already been initialized beginning and being updated right here. So you leave this empty here. And then you will check each of the letter, right? Until you reach the end of the string, right? Until you reach end of string character. So if it's in between 0 and 9, you just have the value equals to this character minus character 0, right? If it's between A and F, you just do that accordingly. Like, for example, if this is a letter A minus letter A equals 0 plus 10. That's the value for A, right? A equals to 10, B equals to 11, so on and so forth. That's the other condition. Otherwise, you will just break, okay? Break the for loop. Then you calculate this the value. I give you this equation, right? So you don't have to worry about it. But basically, it's a little bit different from you do the manual conversion. It's actually doing the opposite way. So this function is basically return this final value, and then we have a main function to print the results out of it. Again, so if it's a prefix, skip the index by 2. Otherwise, if it's a digits we want to process, we will convert this character number into our integer number. Right? If it's a 9 to 0 to 9, it's just conversion by subtract the character 0. If it's a letter, subtract the character letter and add 10 to it. Right. So in this one, this lesson 3, well, I haven't finished it. I'm going to talk about the next one a little bit. We'll talk about the basic variable type. All right, declare them, how to do the addition, manipulation, relational comparison, logical comparison, and their precedence, and or how those values be converted either automatically or you do that explicitly. Also, how that will be affect the evaluation of the expression. All right, so